As is tradition, the Spring Classics are set to end with the oldest monument in the sport, Liège, Bastogne, Liège. For over 100 years, the third of 3 races in the week-long series through the Belgian Ardennes brings out the top classic specialists in the world. And now with the Tour de France looming, this year's edition gives us a glimpse into who will be favoured come July. Aussie Cadel Evans is in search of his first classic win, while his Grand Tour rival Alejandro Valverde knows the terrain well after winning here in 2006. And don't discount the American slipstream Chipotle squad or the highly successful Team High Road. They're both ready now to elevate to classic status. Cyclism Sundays presents the 94th edition of Liège-Bastogne-Liège next on Versus. Yes, it all began back in 1896. The classic from Liège down to Bastogne, back to Liège. It's a chance to see the riders who think they can win the Tour de France take part as well. It's a massive ride of 162 miles over the hilly countryside down in Belgium. Hello everybody, I'm Phil Liggitt and welcome now to Cyclism Sundays presented by Hampton Hotels. Alongside me is Paul Sherwen. Paul, this is the one the riders want to prove they're ready for the big stage races.
I always see this as a real major changing point in the season. We've looked at the one-day classic specialists, but now it's the first time really in the year we see the men who are going to ride the Grand Tours to win them come out and play for the first time. Lance Armstrong always used to like this race, so too did the great Miguel Indurain.
Well, spring has yet to arrive in Belgium, as indeed all over Europe. It's still overcast, and as we saw in the Flesh Wallon earlier in the week, it was torrential rain, and in fact that rain spread throughout Europe. It was the wettest classic of the year. Before we go to the action at Liège, let's catch up in what happened on Wednesday in the 200 kilometres race, the Flesh Wallon.
Well, Phil, this is always a little bit of a race caught in between the two classics. 199 kilometres, 124 miles, and early on, with 99 kilometres to go, there's a breakaway with Jason Donald of Shipstream Chipotle.
And then a big group. It was a very active race. It's one of the best of the year, in fact. It's short, snappy 200 kilometres. Confidence weren't in the break. They chased a long way. There were also the crashes we always expect. Igor Martinez on the ground, and that was David Lopez of Case Depart. They got up and they chased on, at least the Igor Martinez did. And then the rain really did start to tumble down as a break of 4 tried to confirm. Vladimir Epikin, Van den Broek, Marco Pinotti, and the Schleck was up there as well. But nobody, Paul, was allowed to escape. There was constant riders coming up from behind to charge up that leading group.
Yes, but in the last hour and a half of racing, what made the difference was the bad weather came in over the Ardennes and it became very cold indeed. Case d'Epargne were very dominant at the front end of the main field, but finally it was a Belgian rider on Cofidis with 30 kilometres to go, Maxime Montfort, who tried to go clear.
Well, the hills come thick and fast also in this race. The big challenge is the finishing climb of the Muir de Heat, which they'd already seen twice. Then Andy Grifko, heading for the last time to the top of the Muir, put in a big attack. He was strong all day, riding off the front of the breakaway. It was Lampre who was trying to keep the race together for their man, Damiano Cunego.
Well, when we got to the Côte de Benaïn, you could see that Grifko was losing out of steam, but there was another move going clear. That was Nikolai Bo Larsen of Team CSC. That made 2 men at the front, but again, another rider moved across, the champion of Germany, Fabian Wegmann, reveling in these awful conditions.
Well, Larsen and Wegmann, the champion of Germany, as Paul says, also a former king of the mountain, the Giro d'Italia, and ever aggressive. He thought this was to be his day. But the breakaway is hampered when a crash. Larsen goes down of his own volition on a treacherous left-hand hairpin bend. He was left to lie there while the race went past him, and that left one man out in front, Fabian Wegmann, going for gold.
Well, he was looking to try and get himself to the Muir de Huy, but Effenkin was riding behind him, trying to pull this race back together, but the main field were only 24 seconds in arrears at this point as they came charging into the town of Huy, and it was all the orange and blue jerseys on the front for Team Lampre, trying to set something up from Damiano Cunego. 1 kilometre to go, and Fabian Wegmann was still in the lead.
Well, if it hadn't have been an uphill finish, he would have won the race for sure, but I'm afraid it wasn't to be. This is a brute of a climb. It's 900 meters long. It has a slope of 25%. And this is Alexander Efeking who is chasing. In the early part there, it was his twin brother on the attack. But as they came up towards the summit, Cadel Evans started racing up, challenged by Rebellin, challenged by Cunigo, but the winner was yet to pierce the top three. Then Kirkin made his move.
Well, Kirkin in the white jersey of Team High Road was sitting in third position with about 500 meters to go, churning a massive gear. In fact, he was riding on the big chain ring, 53 on the outside and 22 at the back. That was huge.
Well, he had the strength halfway up, though he said later he thought he'd misjudged the size of his gear. I don't know how he pedalled it up the hill, because this hill just is relentless all the way to the top. But yet another victory for Team High Road, the same day when Greg Henderson over in the United States won a stage of the Tour of Georgia. At the moment, Team High Road seemingly can't do anything wrong. And this was Kirkin's own third victory of the year.
Well, that was a great performance, but a good performance too, Phil, by Cadel Evans, the best ever by an Australian rider in the Flèche Wallonne. And watch out for Robert Gessink there in fourth place for Team Rabobank. He's a man who's going to have a great season, I think.
Further down, David Rebellin, a former winner, in sixth place, and Ryder Heijerdal was the best place rider from Slipstream Chipotle after a great ride all day by David Miller. He lost nearly 3 minutes on the finishing climb. Kim Kirkin saluting the crowd here. He has shown us now he is ready for Liège, Bastogne, Liège. Well, as I say, he's ready for Bastogne, Liège, Bastogne, Liège. The riders are underway. 200 riders started today, Paul. And it is a traditional route, although they do have one extra hill on it this year, and a very steep one at that.
Well, they've added a nasty little hill in down towards the end, but as you can see, the riders move away from Liège. They head down an undulating route as they go through the Rocheau 4 down to Bastogne, and then that's when the action really starts, because they turn upwards and head back to Liège. And this is where all of the big climbs are really very much concentrated. It's a leg-breaking course as the riders head their way back up and circumnavigate Liège with a nasty climb towards the end, but it's really the profile, Phil, I have to say, of Liège, Bastogne, Liège that makes it very difficult indeed. Look at that, a couple of climbs in the first 100 kilometers, but down towards the end, they've got some really nasty climbs. The Côte de Win is a famous climb. The Côte de Haute-Levée is also very famous. But these riders are all very concerned now about the new climb that comes in towards the end, the climb of the Roche of the Falcons.
Yes, and that is 18% and 1.5 kilometers long. It is going to be a very interesting day. Well, let's have a look at some riders who know they can win this, and not least is Alejandro Valverde, a man who wants to do well here. He's done well here before. He is strong, and he really played an anonymous role in Flèche Wallonne. That's always a good sign.
Always a good sign. It's his kind of race. He likes these very tough Ardennes classics, but I have a feeling Damiano Cunego is looking to do something special. He was brilliant a week ago in the Amstel Gold Race and really is seeming to come back to the form that he had a few years ago when he won himself the Giro d'Italia.
He loves this race. He said so, and he wants to win it. Cadel Evans became the best Australian to get on the podium ever in Flèche Wallonne, and his form is the best he's ever had at this time of the year. He's an absolute winner. He says he's going to use the weekend in the Ardennes, that's what they call it, even though it's Wednesday and Sunday, to try and show his form. These are other riders who should be there. Former winner in Rebellin, Fränk Schleck, who says it's time to come back and win a big race again. Paolo Bettini, maybe less so. He's struggling a little bit.
Well, I think we're going to have to look at the young guard as well. Kim Kirkin, after his win on Wednesday, will be looking for a good performance here. I like Robert Gessink, the young rider from Team Rabobank, who really has a very good start to his season. And of course, for Slipstream Chipotle, the best rider in Flèche Wallonne was Ryder Heijerdal.
All right, well, before we join the head of the action, let's have a look at the story so far. Breakaway have developed about 50 kilometers in today. Marcus Foten, Pierre Roland, Pavel Brut and David Kopp. And then with 80 kilometers to go, Kopp was in trouble on the Haute-Levée. He finally was dropped on the Côte de Rossier with 67 kilometers to go. That left just 3 riders. Stubb went very early on. Marcus Foten, Pavel Brut and in the end, Pierre Roland. Then a lone chase by Philippe Gilbert, and that's the situation as we approach La Redoute. As we look down now, the peloton are just 36 kilometers to go, but the big climbs are still ahead. The spread is 1 minute 23. Still in no man's land is Philippe Gilbert. Here are the 3 leaders, the long breakaway survivors today of Marcus Foten of Gerolstein, Pierre Roland, Crédit Agricole, and Pavel Brut of Tinkoff. We're on the climb of La Redoute.
Well, Phil, the whole race is on the climb of La Redoute right now. Philippe Gilbert caught in no man's land at 54 seconds, but the main field now, I think, realizing this is the moment they need to start hostilities. And once again, you can just see the freeway on the right-hand side again, as it is every year, turned into a parking lot. You can see a lot of riders from Lamprey moving up to the front. That's from Damiano Cunego. These guys, I think, all realize this is the start of hostilities, but a little bit further up the road, they are all very concerned about this new climb, the second climb to go before the finish, the climb of the Roche au Faucon, the mountain of the Falcons.
Well, you say concerned, I would say they're worried to death, Paul. You can see by the flags there, they're picking up a tailwind at the moment as they start La Redoute, but it does twist round to the left where it gets quite steep, which will make it a crosswind towards the summit. One man who's had the ups and downs today of Liège, Bastogne, Liège is Juan Mauricio Soler, who won the King of the Mountains in the Tour de France, but he's right up at the front, and it's interesting too that his teammates on Baolo World are working very well up there. Just look at the crowd here now, Paul, as this is Philippe Gilbert, and he's closing in at 49 seconds on the three leaders.
Yes, but they're closing in on him as well, because the main field is at 1 minute and 21 seconds. Gilbert, you can hear the crowd cheering him on. He's a young rider from Verviers, so he's a real local rider here. He's a French-speaking Belgian rider on this squad from France. And there you can see Matty Lloyd, the Australian national champion, there on the left-hand side, Phil. And, of course, Cadel Evans. But this is the steep part of the Côte de la Redoute. And you can see there, you can see Pavel Brut really not enjoying it.
Well, his legs had to lock up somewhere, sometime, because he's been pushing these huge gears, and it looks as though it's the slightly built Marcus Photon in front there. Now, not surprisingly, Lamprey leading the charge, thinking of Damiano Cunego, the man on form this last week, winner of the Amstel Gold. Gilbert is a man full of confidence, inspired by the local people today, but has he gone too soon?
Marcus Photon on the left-hand side, all over his bike. But I'll tell you what, the young rider from Crédit Agricole, Pierre Roland, he really is enjoying his Liège-Bastogne-Liège. A little further down, this is the face of the man who can ride both kinds of classics, the flat classics of the northern part of France, the Tour of Flanders, but of course, being a man from this region, the Wallonie region, the French-speaking region of Belgium, he really would like to do well in this event.
Looking to the right here, oh, we're not. We've gone back up to the front. This is Pierre Roland here, who's now trying to go clear on his own. A young rider, been allowed to ride his own race today. And just look at the crowd. I've never seen enthusiasm like this for a long time on La Redoute, but they've spotted Philippe. He's having his best ever start to the season, and he really is a local boy. Yes, he speaks French, but he is Belgian.
Yes, he certainly is. He's from this part of the world there. You can see the national champion of Australia, Matty Lloyd, on the left-hand side, and Mauricio Soler was on the right-hand side for Team Baolo World. And that would be one for the books if he comes up with the win here this afternoon. Still not quite getting to the top of the Côte de la Redoute here. Roland out of the saddle once more. He's waiting for this climb to flatten out and looking a little bit further down the road there. In fact, we're looking from 45 seconds behind for Philippe Gilbert to 1 minute and 19 seconds to the main field. Still no serious reaction. I think they're all waiting, concerned, Phil, about this penultimate climb. There's Cadel Evans in about 5th or 6th position.
Well, the pack here, and like last year, they're going over more or less as a compact group. All 200 riders started today, no non-starters at all. Thinned down a little bit, and look at Matty Lloyd here, the champion of Australia, really finding his feet this week. He had a very, very good ride in midweek in the Flèche Wallonne. He was in the breakaway there, and now he's trying his luck again. He's causing the reaction, and Baolo World have been very attempted.
Well, they're right there in second place. Baolo World, CSC up there. Cadel Evans in 4th position. You can see him in the black jersey of Silent Slaughter, and Paolo Bettini, the world champion, moving up. Look at that acceleration.
Well, here's a man who himself didn't seem to hold out a lot of hope, and now there he is going. He's getting over all of his injuries and sickness, and big Paolo is launching it out. I should say little Paolo, really.
Well, Jiminy Cricket, they call him. You might not have noticed in the confusion there, but Philippe Gilbert was caught and passed by this acceleration. Paolo Bettini, champion of the world. Yes, Phil, he has had the curse of the world champions jersey this year. He's been on the ground so many times. That is the summit of the Côte de la Redoute, and that is the top of the climb for this young man, Pierre Roland of France and Crédit Agricole. But I can see already that Paolo Bettini is making the first big selection.
So Pierre Roland grabs a little bit of glory here as he goes over the top. The young man on Crédit Agricole, he joined them full-time last year. After he came as a trainee with them in 2005, he's now beginning to shine. He's only 21 years age. He had a wonderful ride today. He won't win this race, though, mark my words, because these boys are attacking, and this looks like Schleck is on the move.
Nice move. As soon as he could feel that everyone was a little bit in oxygen jet, he said, bang, straight over the top. Now, this is a nice move. He's come to the slightly flatter part. There is the summit of the Côte de la Redoute for him, and look how quickly he's opened that gap.
Well, there were 12 climbs today. We are going to see the best 4 here. This is La Redoute. We go on to the lesser climb of Sprimont, then onto the new climb of the Falcons, and finally the climb Côte de Saint-Nicolas, which takes the little hill towards the finish, which they don't count as a hill at all. 34 kilometers to go now. Schleck has laid down arms here now. Good time to move just as you tip over the top of the climb. Well, we're over the top of the Col de la Redoute. Marcus Foten and Pierre Roland still blasting a lone trail, but the peloton are now full of fight. Well, as we're back with the action here, we're on the climb of the Côte de Sprimont now. What has happened is Roland is still in the lead here, but Marcus Foten has just dropped back into a chasing group where he'll find his teammates Schumacher and Andy Schleck. He's been passed down the line at least Schumacher and Schleck chasing Paul, and this is Vladimir Effinkine, Franco Pelazzotti and Marcus Foten, who's slowly going back to the group.
Well, in the middle there, we've got Andy Schleck, and here is Andy Schleck, and they're about to make the junction at the front end of the bike race. There is Roland, followed there by Schumacher in the pale blue of Gerolsteiner, and the younger of the Schleck brothers, Andy Schleck, looking very good. Remember him last year, second overall in the Giro d'Italia, and actually, Phil, before the start, although everybody was tipping the big brother Fränk, look at that. That's what happens when you've been in the lead of a race for since the 28th kilometer. Yeah. Goodbye. Thank you very much, Vienna. But this is the big boys at the front now. Andy Schleck, to finish the thought, said before the start, Phil, that he felt he could do something today.
Well, now's his big moment here. They've replaced Foten with a very, very much stronger teammate in Stefan Schumacher. And Schumacher and Andy Schleck, and look at this, Paolo Bettini, we saw him flex his muscles on the La Redoute, and just look at the speed of the world champion here. He's zipped around Effinkine, and he's gone right around Pelazzotti, and he's looking for the leaders.
I tell you what, this man has had an awful start to his season. He's been on the ground in Tirreno Adriatico, he's been on the ground in the Pays Basque race, and now he is showing the form that has got him the world champion band 2 years in succession. Goodbye, Pierre Roland. Now he's trying to ride across the gap, and he's not got more, Phil, than about 10 seconds to close to Andy Schleck and Stefan Schumacher. And these two riders now are not cooperating properly, and I'm sure very quickly, number 31, Paolo Bettini there on the right-hand side will go. This is how he moved away from the front end of the main field, and check this out for a bit of an acceleration.
And for a man who wasn't sure of his form coming into this race, but towards the end, frankly, the race all day has been pretty much a procession. The riders are very, very much playing a tactical battle, as they had those few leaders up front, but they always had them in control. But once La Redoute came, this race has exploded, and they're all afraid now of the ultimate climb, and that is where it could all go wrong for fight for others.
Well, race went over the Côte de Sartillemont. The organisers felt that race wasn't quite hard enough, so they took out the Sartillemont and they found this new climb, the Roche au Faucon, and all of the riders have been looking at it this week. It's a very narrow climb, very steep, tilting up to around about 18% at one stage, and that's where it's going to be very hard. This is Andy Schleck riding his magnificent Cervelo bicycle.
So the race is now opening up. The next climb will be the Roche au Faucon, and Stefan Schumacher and Andy Schleck are the boys who could be spearheading the charge. They better watch out. The world champion has made his move. We'll take a break. Welcome back to Liège Bastogne. The two leaders, Andy Schleck and Stefan Schumacher, are now approaching the climb of Roche au Faucon, the new climb, which was into any rider, and they're only just ahead. But before we join them on the slopes, let's have a look at our Hampton Hotels presentation, Road to Beijing. Today we're featuring Pat McCarthy.
One of my few goals as a professional athlete to do certain things. Going to the Olympics is one of them. You know, as a cyclist, there's a lot of other things that go on every year that are as big a deal as the Olympics, if not bigger. But I think there's kind of something special about the Olympics for sure. Well, as hard as it is to make it in terms of just being good at the right time and luck, it's really tricky. You always get your chance at the trials and you get your chance during the season. So if you make it, then you make it.
Well, of course, the selection process isn't complete yet. Pat McCarthy is still fighting for a place on the team, Paul. But the thing about Slipstream is they're in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, they've got a big team over in Europe, and that's a great place to try and fine-tune the selection process. It will be difficult, I think, for Pat McCarthy to make that slot because, you know, there's a lot of American talent out there this year.
And this is now the climb of the Côte La Roche au Faucon. And Paul, this is Cadel Evans by the look of it, and there are 22 seconds on those two leaders.
Well, this is the climb that all of the riders have been worried about this week. They've been out and looked at it. They've stayed in Liège for most of the week because this is where the Flèche Wallonne took place. This is the damage being done at the back end of the main field by this climb, which kicks up to 18% at its steepest part. Still the two leaders off the front end of this bike race, Stefan Schumacher and, of course, Andy Schleck.
Well, we just saw the departure there. The Pierre Roland has been a real hero today, but it's all over for him now. This is a very tough climb, this. The riders are very afraid of it. It is 1.5 kilometers long, a steep gradient in the middle of 18%. Up with the two leaders now, doing well to hold on to about the same gap they had at the bottom.
21 seconds is really not very much, and I'm sure that in a few moments' time the big guns will come out to play here. There's the front end of the main field over on the right-hand side, and again another attack coming off the front. This time it's Saunier Duval taking a turn.
Well, this is interesting to see them throw everything they've got here at the race right now. Somebody is going to break this field up if they get half a chance. But the field behind packing well just now and not splitting up like we expected. But I think they're all very frightened of this climb. A lot of riders came to have a look at this. It was a new climb to everybody, and they thought the organisers had played a very tough card indeed. Trouble at the back too for the Lampre riders now.
Well, you can see this is going to create an awful lot of damage here, but it is stretching out into a long line at the front end of the main field. Now you can see Schleck has gone, Schumacher is out.
Well, it has come at a very important time here. At the steepest section, we go on to a very narrow stretch of the road now. This is the part that hurts, 18% in the middle. Schumacher has said that's enough for me. So the winner of the Amstel Gold last year has allowed the runner-up in the Giro d'Italia, 21 years of age, to go for 20 kilometers to go.
That's the official distance, 12.5 miles of racing to the finish line now, and we can see this big acceleration coming from the Spanish champion Gutierrez looking over his shoulders. He's creating damage, but the main field, Phil, are not more than 15 seconds in arrears of Schleck. Schumacher's been caught now and passed.
Well, this is the battle we thought would happen here. And it's Rodríguez, in fact. Gutierrez was the deposed champion of Spain as they start the climb now at 19 kilometers to go. We expected everybody who feels in any good condition just now to have a go. They really feel that this is where they'll split the field and continue on towards the last couple of climbs of the day. That's the Côte de Saint-Nicolas and the road to the finish. And we haven't seen hardly anything at all day of Damiano Cunego.
Just sitting in the wings, waiting for his moment to make a move. Now you can see they're almost all the way across the gap there to Andy Schleck. As you say there, the man coming across, Joaquim Rodríguez, the Spanish national champion. But there's a small cluster of the heads of state now, Phil, starting to come across. And so too is Fränk Schleck, the elder brother.
Well, I'm laughing, Paul, because everybody in the race predicted this is where it would split up. And in fact, this is where it had all come together just now. The whole field in with a chance once again, those that are left in the peloton. But Schleck seems almost inspired here. He's picked up the Spanish champion Rodríguez, and two others have hitched on.
Well, he's inspired because he's just seen, I think, the face of his brother, Fränk Schleck, there in third possession now. This is a great situation to be in. The two Schleck brothers in the lead. Schumacher, he's been blown away. I think that's David Rebellin has moved up into fourth place. Rodríguez, Spanish champion. There's a rider coming across from Silence Lotto. I wonder if that is the move now from Cadel Evans.
And just look at that brotherly love here as they talk to each other, because this time last year we were on the Tour of Switzerland and talking with Fränk Schleck, and they were saying, well, next year we're both on the same team. And it looks as though they've waited till the last classic of the early season to show us togetherness, as they now control the front of the peloton.
Well, struggling at the back here, that's Maxime Montfort. He was an attacker early on in the day, but I tell you one thing now, he's struggling at the back of this race. First time this climb has been put in, and we're now looking at a four-man leading group. Or is there a fifth-man leading group there, Phil? Because I think there may well be a rider from Silence Lotto's just got himself onto the back.
All right, well, there's the chat here with the two Schleck brothers now in tandem as they drive away from the climb three riders are chasing. One looks very much to me as though it might be Damiano Cunego. We'll just take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll know who they all are. See you in a moment. Welcome back, 17 kilometres from the finish. Cadel Evans on the right of our picture, trying to lead the chase up here with Vanberger, Christian Vanberger, the champion of Austria. But this is the breakaway, and the man who got up to them is David Rebellin, the former winner of this race, driving on now. He's got the Schleck brothers, this is Rodríguez, and the other man, Alejandro Valverde.
Number 11 there, just at the back in the black and red jersey. He's a danger man for this event. He's won this event before, and he's been very quiet this week, Phil. I think just honing his legs to get himself into competition. But on the back there is Damiano Cunego, number 61. You can see Cadel Evans not getting any friends or any help at all here. But this man here, Vanberger from Team Barlow World, certainly is a big revelation today.
Well, I saw him win the Giro del Capo in South Africa this year, and he climbs extremely well. But more than that, he's developed since that race victory for Barlow World, and he's had a very good season here. He rode well in midweek in Flèche Wallonne, sort of heralded the chance of a good ride today.
There was a bit of a problem there for Rodríguez, dropping off the back of that group. I'm not sure what happened to him. Maybe the pressure that was being put on the front by David Rebellin. He should be able to get a little bit of respite, but there's a big gap now to the group of three with Cadel Evans, and those are the remnants of the front end of the main field.
Well, I think that the horse is bolted from the stable now with these riders here and the four riders, maybe five in front. I don't know who's going to chase now, because the big favourites have gone. Rebellin, Valverde up front, the Schleck twins, brothers rather. And here we've got Cunego, Evans and Vanberger. Who's going to chase?
Well, it's going to be difficult to see who will chase, because the big names, as you say, have made the split at the front end of the race. They've still got to get over the summit of this climb, the Roche au Faucon, the mountain of the mountain of the Falcons. This is the struggling at the back end of the main field. You can just catch a quick glimpse there of Thomas Dekker. That's a surprise to me to see him so far back. I expected him to ride well. There is Rodríguez. He's going to get picked up by the three-man chasing group.
So Rodríguez, the champion of Spain, glances over his shoulder at Vanberger, the champion of Austria, tries to lift the tempo a little bit and get a free passage back up to the riders he was with. He may just about have the legs. He's very happy to see his teammate Valverde has made the gap, and that's why he was there, to get Valverde in position. He may recover from that effort.
Yes, but look at the gap starting to open. 16 seconds to Cadel Evans, 35 seconds back to the front end of the main field. The leading group of four riders now on the left-hand side, briefly on the left-hand side there, Phil, you could see, are working very well together. They will descend down into the outskirts of Liège now and then start to look for the climb of the Saint-Nicolas.
Well, the climb of the Saint-Nicolas has in the past tended to split the field, and it's the little unheralded climb towards the finishing line which has always stopped the sprinters winning this race. Cunego has said if he can stay with the leaders, he might be able to win the sprint at the finish, but I'm not sure now whether he'll reach the leaders. Here's the long battle now past the FC Standard Liège Football Club, and these are the leaders, and still a little bit of trouble at the back here. So the four leaders are Rebellin, Andy and Fränk Schleck, Alejandro Valverde. They're being chased by Damiano Cunego, Cadel Evans, Christian Vanberger and Joaquim Rodríguez. And they still have every reason to catch up. We'll take a break. And these riders are certainly booking their place in the Tour de France this July, because they're prizing out now. It's 31 seconds to the chase of Cunego, Evans, Vanberger and Rodríguez. And we've got the former winners here in David Rebellin, who won in 04, Alejandro Valverde, he won in 06, and Fränk Schleck, who was third last year.
Well, they're just in the outskirts of Liège, the little town of Sherwen, where the Tour de France time trial started a few years ago. And Miguel Indurain was the winner on that occasion. But here, they're looking for the small area of Tilleur, where the climb of the Côte de Saint-Nicolas is going to start. And that is a beast of a climb, especially when you've been riding as hard as these four guys at the front. Somebody else now trying to move across the gap here. This is Evgeny Petrov of Tinkoff Credit Systems. They've been in the breakaway all day with Pavel Brut, but he is trying to get across to the four men who are in the middle of no man's land at the moment, led, of course, by Cadel Evans. But these are the four leaders with 11 kilometers to go.
Well, in the week, so many riders said that the winning break would go on the new climb, They all came together, they all had a chance, but 4 riders have got a slip over 4 chasers, and I don't think the Pendleton have any firepower to get back into this race. 11 kilometers to go. This is the second group, but at the moment making no impression as Cunego drives through.
Well, the Spanish champion on the back, he's not going to give them any help at all because his teammate Alejandro Valverde is in the leading group. Joaquim Rodríguez on the back there wearing 16, the black and red of Silence Lotto is Cadel Evans. He'll be hoping he can make the move on the climb of the Côte de Saint-Nicolas. There's the playing field there of the Standard of Liège, a big football team in this area. There's the River Meuse, or the Mars as they call it, over the border, but the riders know that that sign there is an indication they're not too far from the last climb of the day.
It's the famed climb of the Côte de Saint-Nicolas, 10 kilometers to go across the river and heading up the back streets now on the other side to the city of Liège itself. Alejandro Valverde knows that he's outnumbered here by the Schleck brothers and used to have one on his side, but now look at this, and they're going to do this a lot, I think, Paul. The old 1-2 is coming again.
Well, there you see, just see how Fränk Schleck moved across there just to close the gap and make sure that nobody could go. But Valverde's a difficult man to catch out with a move like that. He's got the sprint for the finish, so he knows he's got to nail back this gap if he wants to win the race. But look how quickly Andy Schleck has got, and now Fränk Schleck goes into 3rd position, says, right, guys, you want to win Liège, Bastogne, Liège? You can chase my brother down.
Two great personalities here in Andy and Fränk Schleck. They've come together this year on the same team. They're now using that friendship of brotherly love to rip the leaders apart. It's down to Rebellin. I think Valverde looks a little bit confused. And Schleck, the other Schleck now, Fränk, is going to sit here and wait and see if they can ride him back. Surely one of them's going to win this race.
Well, it'll be the old ding-dong if they come back together, because if Valverde and Rebellin make contact with Andy Schleck, watch for the counter move of Fränk Schleck sitting on the back. He's getting a free ride for the moment, but I tell you what, in about 3 kilometers time, they get that climb, the Côte de Saint-Nicolas. Andy Schleck, I think, feels sacrificing himself for Big Brother here this afternoon.
Well, it's he who gets the move wins. It's as simple as that. If they do catch Fränk, then Andy will catch Andy rather, then Fränk will have a go. I'm sure that's the way it's going to be now. These are just the little slopes now before we get to the climb. It's not very far away. This is a superb move by Andy Schleck, and it's a copybook move. It had to come. When you've got 2 riders in the front, then you've got to keep attacking the other 2. And Rebellin is being left to do the majority of the chasing and not gaining at the moment.
Well, Rebellin reckons he's got the legs to win this bike race. He's a former winner of Liège, Bastogne, Liège, and he knows how important it is not to let somebody ride off the front.
All right, well, as we've got the long empty road below us here, it is all on fire in Liège, Bastogne, Liège. Andy Schleck is leading. We'll take a short break and come back. Well, we're back really at Liège, Bastogne, Liège. This is the climb at 7 kilometers to go now of the Côte de Saint-Nicolas. The gap is just the same, and all the work behind is being left to Rebellin. This is further back now to a group I don't think is going to make contact.
Well, they're looking for 40 seconds now. Cadel Evans and Damiano Cunego doing the majority of the pacemaking in this group. But the move has really been done by Andy Schleck at the front. Tête de la course, the front end of the bike race. This is the Côte de Saint-Nicolas. Over the summit, it's 5.5 kilometers to go to the finish. He's only got about 6 seconds advantage on a group containing his brother Fränk, but in there, Davide Rebellin and, of course, Alejandro Valverde.
Oh, just a little bit of picture interference there, but back with those big long legs here of Andy Schleck. He never looks really content on that bike. He looks a bit crunched up, but he's certainly effective. This is a tough climb now. Now, Paul Sherwen is expecting an attack here from Valverde. There he is in the centre.
Well, Valverde likes these steep climbs there. You can just see at about 100 meters in front, Andy Schleck. Valverde wearing number 11 there, looking fairly comfortable, but looking more comfortable is the man wearing 21 at the back, Fränk Schleck. He's waiting like a falcon to pounce.
Elder brother Fränk Schleck knows that if his younger brother's only 22 3/4 years of age, by the way, Andy Schleck, if he gets caught, it's going to be all down to Fränk to win this for Team CSC. Rebellin has been superb because he hasn't had hardly any help at all from Valverde, and yet he's driving these 3 riders closer all of the time. How often, Paul, over the years have we seen the crucial attack on this very bend?
Well, this is the part when it gets very steep indeed, and still Alejandro Valverde sitting there, Phil, in 2nd position. Fränk Schleck looks very comfortable. He's waiting for the moment of contact. He's going to hit him hard. Then we'll have to see who can respond to the move by big brother Fränk, who's there currently in 3rd position.
Well, I've got to take my hat off to Rebellin, who has it. And there goes Fränk. Well, that wasn't it. There he is, the catch, and immediately Fränk has gone. And what a great reaction from Rebellin here. Valverde a little bit sluggish. I'm not sure Alejandro is on the great form just yet, but Fränk has launched something which, of course, has destroyed his own brother.
Well, it's the setup. That's what they had to do, Team CSC. And maybe you feel that Alejandro Valverde has not got the explosiveness. But Phil, if they take Alejandro Valverde to the finish line, he's going to blow past them because he's the man with the fastest sprint. But look at this acceleration now from big Fränk Schleck. He's got it on the big chain ring there, but he's not got rid of Davide Rebellin. They've not yet got rid of Alejandro Valverde. If they want to win this bike race, they need to dislodge the Spaniard, because number 11 there, he is a rapid man, and give him a smell of victory in this classic again, he will go for it.
Well, 3 team leaders here, all with a 1 on their numbers there. Fränk Schleck will be a little bit disappointed that didn't work. I don't know where Rebellin has found the legs to do this. Schleck is trying another acceleration, but with almost ease here, Rebellin has mastered it. He's still a slower reaction from Valverde. Rebellin's record in this event is so enviable. He won it in 04, he was second in 2001, he was third in 2000, he had other places in the top 6 as well, and here he is now hunting another victory, and I think he might get it.
He very well could. He's an experienced bike rider. Phil turned professional back in 1992. He's 36 years of age, but Valverde has survived the Côte de Saint-Nicolas.
All right, well, next up, it will be the finish. It looks like the trio are going to take us to the line together. Fränk Schleck would like not that to be the case. We'll take another quick break and rejoin us. And as you rejoin us, we're just about 2 kilometers from the line here. We're looking at the 3 leaders. There they are, and Valverde has gone to the front with Rebellin there. And sitting in the back now, since he was mastered from that attack, is Fränk Schleck.
Well, Fränk Schleck is going to use the excuse that he's got his brother chasing in 4th position on the road not to cooperate with these 2 riders. Rebellin in the blue, Alejandro Valverde in the black and red. Valverde, the fastest finisher of all of these riders, but he's got to be very careful. It's a completely different sprint, Phil, at the end of a one-day classic like Liège, Bastogne, Liège, than it is trying to win bunch sprints in the mountains of the Pays Basque races. You can see Valverde is very nervous. He's sat in the middle there, just looking over his shoulder to see it. He's waiting for another move from Fränk Schleck there, because we climb up to the finish line here in Alton. It's a long climb up there, and I'm sure Fränk Schleck is planning that move.
Well, for all of these guys, this is a huge result here. Confirmation that the big guns are really firing as we come to the end of the Spring Classics. All of these riders have been on the podium in Liège, Bastogne Liège before, 2 of them as previous winners. And the group behind, group number 2, is just 1 rider, and that's Andy Schleck at 20 seconds. And group number 3 is Cadel Evans. Now gone from that group is Damiano Cunego. We didn't see him go, but we assume he's fallen back.
Well, I think he may well have slipped back a fraction, Phil, on the Côte de Saint-Nicolas. This is the long drag up there. The barrier over the finish there shows it's 1 kilometer to go. Valverde looking nervous, looking at the face there of Davide Rebellin and wondering whether or not this man at 36.5 years of age has still got the explosive sprint at the finish that he had years ago.
Remember Alejandro Valverde at the top of Courchevel when he out-sprinted Lance Armstrong. He can pack a punch on the big climbs. He's also a good bunch sprinter when he wants to be. This man continues to plug on here. He's in 4th place, but if they slow down, he might be in the fight for the win. That was Andy Schleck. Rebellin looks at everyone. He looks a frightened man here, because they're all afraid now that Valverde, who's been a little bit slow to react to the attacks but has closed the gaps, will pack the finish required.
Well, Valverde's also waiting. Look at him looking over his shoulder all the time. They know that Fränk Schleck, if he wants to win Liège, Bastogne Liège, has got to put in a last-minute attack, but they're all jockeying for position. You go up this long straightaway, Phil, and at about 400 meters to go, there's a left-hand turn, and then the finish line is in front of you. You have to be very careful, though, because it's so easy to misjudge the sprint.
Well, no Luxembourger has won this race for 54 years, and that's what Fränk Schleck is looking to do right now. The Spanish riders, well, Valverde was the last winner in 2006, and the last Italian was Danilo De Luca, somewhat in a little bit of disgrace and not invited to the race this year. He was the winner last year. Rebellin sits on the inside, looking continually very casual, very, very strong. Schleck is just waiting for Valverde to make a move. It's a long time, Paul, since we've seen a finish for Liège like this.
Very nervous. You can see Valverde looking over his shoulder, trying to figure out what am I going to do here. Every one of these three riders, I have to say, has the right to win here. They've all ridden this race superbly. Somebody, unfortunately, well, two riders have got to lose this. Valverde there on the right-hand side, wearing 11, still waiting. He looks like a gun ready to go off.
Well, our picture's just about holding at the moment as we cut away, but there they are, and they're going up side by side. They're not even racing now, they're just matching each other's rhythm. They are very tense, they're looking at shadows, and they won't see any just for the moment in amongst the houses. Schleck is lying just far enough off here now. It looks as though Rebellin might be forced to lead this one out. Valverde's very worried about where he's gone. It's almost a track stance this. They will see the finishing line now as they swing up towards the line, and Schleck is going to have to come from behind. That's what he wants. There goes Valverde, and the Rebellin grits his teeth. Valverde is very, very strong here. I don't think anybody's going to come off this. He's gone very soon though. But Alejandro Valverde is winning for the second time. Second is Rebellin, and third is Fränk Schleck.
Well, you know, Fränk Schleck did not have the explosive finish to get round those two great champions. Valverde is a fast man. This is the man who tried to set it up for his big brother, Fränk. Andy Schleck is going to come across the line around about 20 seconds adrift there, Phil, for fourth place. So the Schleck brothers getting themselves third and fourth. It could have been so very different. And here are the rest coming home right now. And it looks as if Vanberger there is going to take himself a fine fifth.
Well, the champion of Austria continues his ascendancy here, having his best ever season as he does take it up, and I think that might be guessing who's come in just behind him, and Cadel Evans, who's also there as well.
Thomas Dekker actually coming in at the last moment, and I don't know where he came from at all.
Well, he was way down the back of the peloton on the climb, so I don't know how he reached the leaders there, but there's the two behind. They look a little bit disappointed, but they did everything right. At the end of the day, they weren't good enough to take on a very fit Rebellin and a very fit Alejandro Valverde. Rebellin there bringing in that very select little group as well.
Well, I tell you what, the Schleck brothers did everything right, but they just could not get rid of the two great champions in front of them. They did a good ride, they played the cards properly, Phil, and at the end of the day, they didn't come up with it. Third and fourth, but Valverde was the strong man.
Well, there's the break there. It came, of course, from Alejandro Valverde, but although he was slow to close the gap when Schleck attacked earlier, he was keeping this for a powerhouse finish as he comes away here. And I'm a little bit surprised that Schleck didn't even have the legs there to get over Davide Rebellin, who really was the man of the race. Without him today, they wouldn't have caught Andy Schleck. After 6 3/4 hours in the saddle, a win for Alejandro Valverde ahead of Rebellin and Fränk Schleck. Brother Andy gets a high finish in the Classic, his highest, in fact, in form. The top 10 were completed by Vincenzo Nibali and Cadel Evans crossing in 7th. Look at this, though. Oscar Freire, great ride in 11th. Kim Kirk and the big favourite was 12th. Damiano Cunego did crack in 30th. And the best slipstream rider was rider Heijerdal, 51st. Well, there we are, the three champions led by the only Spanish rider ever to win Liège, Bastogne, Liège, Alejandro Valverde. He's done it twice now. That was his 51st win. And Fränk Schleck gets on the podium again in this event in 3rd place, while Rebellin is the man of the Ardennes, really. He gets 2nd. All right, well, that's about it for this week. But next Sunday on Cyclism Sunday, we're going to show you 4 hours of fast pedaling, beginning with coverage of the Tour of Georgia, which is only just recently finished. And also, we'll be off to the Alps for the Tour of Romandy. 2 great dates, don't miss it. For a complete schedule of all our cycling shows, log on to versus.com. And by the way, you'll also find an exclusive interview there of Cadel Evans, which we weren't able to fit in for you in today's coverage. Congratulations, Alejandro Valverde. Now we'll see who's going to win Tour of Romandy. Till next week, for Paul Sherwen, Phil Liggitt, goodbye.